It's only we're in the third day, so it's not. It's actually a good list. Like, there's special wide range. But I mean, what's the question? I'm hoping it can just be this. Everything.
I'm trying to start too much into the weeds because I was a liberal arts major. I just converted us. 2 years. 2 years. I was contracted them first, and then they made me an offer. It's just interesting. They made me an offer.
Cool. Okay. Hi, everyone. Like it's right. I think we're getting on. My name is Anna Baker. Session where I am my degree, which is tech and energy. So Pascal.
Thanks everyone for joining us and for everyone joining us online. My name is Pascal, VP of Civil Service here, and our wonderful moderator is Elliot Martinez. You might know him. He was a former CINSA officer. He currently works with Brian as an industrial designer, and his resume just goes on and on and on. So with that, I'm going to hand things off to Elliot so he can introduce our panelists.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Pascal. So glad that you guys are here, and online folks, whoever's there, hello. But yeah, like Pascal said, my name is Elliot Martinez. We're about to go on a journey. Today is day 3 of iDesign, and we're going to be talking about the all-important topic of technology and energy and how kind of design intersects through all of that, right? So we have a star-studded room of panelists here. I'm actually going to let them introduce themselves. They can speak to it, but I'm going to ask a couple of questions to kind of make the intro a little bit more personable. So number 1 is your name, where you work, your current role, and then finally, what is a favorite movie of yours? It could be a something that you can watch over and over, or that one that makes you cry every time you see it. So we can start right here.
My name is Casey Lynch. I have a background in lighting and smart cities, but I am currently working at Hewlett Packard Enterprise, where I am a senior industrial designer. My favorite movie is the Grand Budapest Hotel. It's fun to look at.
Hi everyone, my name is Kendrick Howard. I'm the community manager for Green Time Labs. It's an accelerator incubator here in Houston focused on clean energy and transition companies. I born and raised here in Houston. Forgot the rest of this question. But I can tell you, favorite movie probably has to be Forrest Gump.
Yeah, sorry. That was
I'm a Tom Hanks. Yeah, Forrest Gump. Yeah,
that's a good one. You want to get a brief glimpse of history? You just watch yourself watch some Forrest Gump and you got it.
Tom Hanks and Billy Robertson.
Yes.
Also like Pretty Woman.
Nice. All right, Meredith, do you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, I'm Meredith Tucker. I work at a nonprofit makerspace called TXRX Labs. I'm in the engineering department. I have a couple roles here. I work as an industrial designer. I work as a community instructor, and I'm the gallery director. So favorite movie, it's actually been a minute since I've had to ask myself this. I'll just say what I would have said like probably 20 years ago. The Great Escape. I don't know, has anyone seen it? Has a good motorcycle scene when he jumps over the fence. Yeah.
Straight into a slide. I remember that was a good one.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I'm a Steve McQueen fan.
Perfect. I love it. Well, I'm so glad. And if you guys don't know, we're all UH alumni. So go Cougs, right? We're in the house. But I kind of want to start with you, Casey, kind of talking about our transition, your transition between a student and then going into your professional career. How's that been that journey for you? And how has sort of that industrial design sort of morphed that and kind of made your space there at the current position?
Okay, so this is a long answer because it's been a rough ride. I took the scenic route, lots of ups and downs. So I started at a company called Extra Light Manufacturing. They're just down the road from here. I got that job because of an internship where I left a good impression, and I got the internship because of the collaboration done with Extra Light and UHID when we were at school. So from there, I got a very nice offer from a lady on LinkedIn. A recruiter reached out to me about a international company called Citalume, and they specialize in lighting in smart cities. I was going to be a proposal writer there. Honestly, I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but I took the offer. And when I got there, they had a very interesting R&D department that had a tool that they were developing. It was a proprietary lighting and environmental reporting tool, and they needed someone to design it. So I had the skill set, so I helped them with that. Unfortunately, what I didn't know when I joined their company is that they weren't doing too well. And about a year after I started, they let everyone go, right as COVID started. So I was actually unemployed for 13 months, and that was pretty rough. But at the end of that, I had 2 job offers. One of those was from Hewlett Packard Enterprise. And I wouldn't have been able to get that offer without a former UH student recommending me, and she's online right now, so thank you. Thank you, Andrea. But yeah, that's how I got to where I am today.
Yeah, that's awesome. What I love about that story is obviously the persistency, right? In life, you're always gonna get thrown a curveball, but the ability of just to stick with it and to use the resources that you have around you, whether they're friendships or past collaborations, to kind of leverage and get you in the position that you want to be, I think is super, super key. So that's awesome.
Exactly.
And what about you, Kendrick? How's been your transition between student?
I'm gonna point out something she said. I cannot stress enough. If you do not have a LinkedIn account, please get one, free one, like today. Because as you start to move up through your career, stuff like that, people, LinkedIn, network, that's like the Facebook for like professionals. Like that's where you want to create, build up your connections and stuff like that. You just never know who may reach out to you for an opportunity or something like that. Like you guys reached out to me through LinkedIn. Like that's like, I can't push that enough. It's really good. So if you guys don't have one, please create one. How I got to where I am today. So like I said earlier, I was born and raised here in Houston. I went to school in DC originally at George Washington University. I was a political science major, go to DC, Obama's there, he needs me to be there near him. So I found a school that's closest to the White House possible, which is GW 4 blocks away. Poli-sci major, then the winter happened. Didn't like the winter there, so don't do cold. I do hurricanes though. Transferred back to U of H, and I did take some stops between, before I completed my career. I worked in politics a lot. I worked on Obama's re-election campaign, Hillary Clinton in 2016 and Joe Biden 2020 campaigns. And after the 2016 campaign, I left a bad taste in my mouth for obvious reasons. And I noticed I enjoyed watching the TV show Shark Tank. I really enjoyed like the venture deals and investment stuff like that. So I just Googled startups in Texas. And I came across a company called Capital Factory, which is another accelerator company here in the state of Texas that focuses on Texas startups. And I just applied for a job out of nowhere for them. No background whatsoever. And they took me on and trained me and taught me everything I needed. And then Greentown came along and they made me a number I could refuse, and then I just switched over to Greentown. So my route has been a little curvy, but I've learned a lot about energy professionals and how they're designing their technologies, because there's a big thing called energy transition happening right now, most prevalent in Houston. So I work with a lot of their engineers and their design team to like help them like come up with new concepts and recruit as well for things like that. So it's been a long winding road that started with politics and ended up in this room today.
Yeah, what a journey, Kendrick. That's awesome. But I mean, from Kendrick's story, sometimes it's that leap of faith, right? I mean, sending an email out, reaching out to that person, applying for that job that might be a no, right, at its worst, but at its best, it might be a life-changing experience. So that's so good that you're able to do that. And so what about you, Meredith? How's been your journey transitioning from student to now the professional that you are?
Well, Let's see, I actually wrote a little bit of notes, but I'll make it more exciting than just reading bullet points for you. So I've been doing design work since I was 19. I actually started as a computer modeler, designing custom computers and inventor for military applications, servers, and drones. Then I got a job at the University of Houston. So I helped out with the computer lab and the Keyland Center, so in the shop. From that, I learned more CAD and 3D modeling. So honestly, I supported myself a lot in college by picking up CAD jobs on Craigslist. Just letting y'all know that's actually a good opportunity because there's lots of oil and gas in town. So that, product photography, video, and marketing. So let's see. In general, I enjoy the physical intricacies of making things. So one of my first jobs out of college, I became a model maker. So definitely can say thank you to my first year of architecture school for that. With that, I learned more CAD plus more craft proficiency. So things like post-finishing, automotive painting. I got more into 3D modeling. I learned more 3D modeling software, a different type. I started using Rhino. But I will say prototyping jobs can be kind of taxing on the body. So I've always jumped back and forth between a physical job and then a computer job, because after a while, it just, your wrists, you just can't keep sanding things all the time. So I had a small stint in instrument building. You know, I followed a passion, and I actually started working on violins, and I focused on product development for like industrial products and scientific instruments. But after a while, like, you have to stop and look at your portfolio and ask yourself what direction you're going in, because where do you actually want to be, but where's your portfolio going to take you? And with that, if you stop and do that, you'll realize maybe it's time to take a different job in a different area so you can diversify your portfolio. In general, I typically operate as an entire creative media department, just because with the product photography, the video, and then actually physically making stuff, I can usually take up an entire department. So currently I'm still doing product development. So that's physical prototyping and model making. And I would say my strongest capabilities would be in my attention to detail and my craft precision, which is absolutely required of a prototyper, and my interest to learn new things, which has kept me motivated to never say no and has built a very diverse and lucrative portfolio. As for my current position, I won an artist grant from TXRX back in 2016. So I came back in 2018 to run the next residency program. And then I was hired on as a prototype engineer and fabricator. So I also teach, I teach these same skills, everything I know, as a community instructor. So that is how I got to where I am.
Yeah, that's awesome. What I like about your journey, Meredith, is that it's very intentional, right? You mentioned how you would review your portfolio and see kind of where, I don't want to say for lack of a better term, but where the holes are, right? Where interest may lie, but maybe the development isn't there yet, and then sought those opportunities out until you you got to the point where you wanted to be, right? So that's really exciting what you guys are doing at TXRX. I know you guys just got a ginormous space down in East End Maker Hub, and you guys are affecting the community in such an awesome way. Can you talk about how in your current role in TXRX and the East End Maker Hub, how it intersects with technology and energy, and how you see it sort of in your day-to-day?
Sure. So TXRX is a prototyping facility for research and development. You can use it for creating one-offs, for small batch manufacturing. We do STEM training, so science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We focus on community level equity building and in general entertainment. So I would say this is the definition of local. It's not specific to any one sector. So whether that's energy or tech, it's an educational open source resource for anyone looking for affordable access to tools, equipment, and training, regardless of their degree or experience level. So if you're a startup or you want to work for yourself, sorry, I hope I'm not going off of your question. Ask your question one more time.
No, well, I was just wondering how tech and energy kind of intersect with TXRX, but you're doing fine. Keep going.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm just trying to avoid selling you a membership right now. But
I already got one, so don't worry about it.
Okay. So basically, if you're a startup or you want to work for yourself, the cost of prototyping and starting a business is very high. The TXRX membership avoids you having to buy the expensive tools and support the overhead. So things like space, maintenance, and training on the equipment. The lab gives you the flexibility to pivot, experiment, and learn by not having to buy everything to get started. So for example, the industries that we cover, these are some of the workspaces and training in the following lab areas. We offer woodworking, machining, 3D printing, ceramics, screen printing, welding, plasma cutting, electronics, post-finishing processes like painting, powder coating, or anodizing, CNC, or jewelry design. So I'm only listing what we publicly offer. We have way more than just this, but this is what we currently have an instructor in, which means you can take a course in this. And then other skills training classes like the following: Arduino, Fusion 360, AutoCAD, CAM or CNC for woodworking or machining, screen printing, leatherworking, welding technologies, and MIG, TIG, stick and brazing, SLA and FDM 3D printing, metal lathe, woodworking and joinery techniques, laser cutting, metrology, plasma cutting, vacuum forming, powder coating, spindle turning, ceramics, and various hobby or entertainment courses.
So it's basically a fun house. You could have just said a fun house and we would have got that. That's awesome. Thank you so much for TXRX just has amazing capabilities. Even for my own business, it's just been pivotal. So I'm so glad that you're kind of able to showcase that, Meredith. Thank you so much. Kendrick, I kind of want to come over to you. You know, you're in Greentown Labs. What kind of ways do you see energy and technology sort of come together there at your workspace?
Well, our companies are focused on this energy transition that's happening in Houston. So they're currently hiring for people who have the skills that all the things Meredith just listed to. So any way to kind of help, you know, low carbon emissions and things of that nature, like that's like the most important thing to us right now. So people building prototypes and designs for in that area, it's kind of like a big focus for us. But all the things that she just said, was like spot on of all the things that we're looking for in our industry with people with those types of skills and stuff like that. So that, like, I would have to just double what she said.
That's perfect. And you know, you kind of you're talking about this term energy transition in your expertise and in your and what you've seen sort of go down in Greentown Lab. How is that energy transitioning happening, and how can us as designers affect that for a positive?
So the energy, it's happening because of, you know, peer pressure from the world, I would say, quite frankly. Currently, we're in the Paris Agreement this year. A lot of the big energy companies, Chevron, BP, Shell, all the stuff like that are, you know, wanting to, you know, change things over because everyone is part of the Paris Agreement currently. So they're putting a lot of resources, like $100 billion, like into like pushing this energy transition. So a lot of companies, a lot of startups are just building and need help with like coming with concepts and stuff like that so they can get a piece of the pie. So having skills that can help benefit those companies and help them come up with modeling and stuff like that and how to like put things together is going to be like the most beneficial way.
Do you have an example of a company that is kind of affecting the energy transition towards like a more sustainable future that you can give us?
You know, believe it or not, I'm going to give you a crazy answer. All of our companies, we have NDAs that I've signed. I cannot talk about. That's because some of them have like private government contracts. And all of our companies in Greentown, Houston, we have strict NDAs. So I can't really talk about that, but I can say is that they're working on like, they have top government contracts to where they have like private lab spaces where it was like draped over with like black. I don't know what they're doing in there.
Wow.
So it's kind of hard. So I'm sorry. I'm not trying to dodge a question.
No. I it's a very political question. But one thing that I did read in an article was that I think one of the companies, I'm not sure if it's still there, they were using pipeline waste to create sort of like a sustainable energy source, which of course, because I think of what you were saying, there wasn't a lot of details towards that, but just, you know, seeing that and seeing the exciting things that people are doing, right? Using design to kind of push energy and technology to a more sustainable future. To me, I always get excited when I see that, right? So that's really cool.
We do have companies that can name names. We have companies who have turned waste into like water. I didn't sign up for that trial. We have companies that have made food, like just built food from like prototypes that they built. So one company called Boston Meats. They're not a member anymore, so I can say that. It was just really prototyping stuff like that. So it's so many different ways. We focus on ag tech, healthy buildings. So that's another design aspect of helping with those type of things like that. Energy, electricity, so multiple sectors across our websites.
That's so cool. Yeah, I love that. And Casey, what about you and HPE? I know they're more of a digital sort of company, some hardware, but one thing that I did see is that you guys are rated as one of the most like ethical companies out there. So Do you see that in your culture and sort of this energy transition and sort of technology that's happening?
Okay, definitely I see it in our culture. We have a great work culture. They're very pro-employee. As far as energy, I can't really speak to that, but I can talk about how industrial design fits into what I've done and my experience in the past. And one note that I do want to make while I'm here is how in tech and manufacturing, industrial design definitely does fit into that. However, they aren't looking for industrial designers. For the jobs that I've applied to, they're looking for engineers typically in small companies. And I think there's a few reasons for that I'd like to talk about. One is just that industrial design is a very well-known field. And then the second is because they think with engineering, they can still get a decent product out of you. And you have more of the skill set to take it all the way to manufacturing and have an end product, whereas with an industrial designer, you have more of a team. However, with that being said, I think there's a lot more room for industrial designers to come in. HP is a little bit different. It's the first big company that I've worked at. So they have an actual industrial design team, but it's very small. So in the US, there's 2 of us. And in Taiwan, there's 2 more. I don't know if that answers your question. I kind of took it a different direction.
No,
yeah. So
I love that. No, and so with your small industrial design team, while you might be small, what things do you do within your small team to affect the company to think about sort of like a beneficial energy transition and sort of the technologies that you guys are developing there at HP, how to kind of, I guess, like instill good design practices during the development?
okay. Again, I'd say we kind of stay away from energy and the technology. There's a department for that. We work on the actual solid goods. So
yeah. So what practices do you do as you're kind of conceptualizing the hardware with like sustainability in mind? Do you guys do like any like user studies or stuff like that that
yeah.
kind of affect that?
okay, we have lots of we have a user experience lab that's going to affect a lot of that. We have lots of teams that we work with too that kind of keep everything in check. We don't like painting plastic parts, for example, because it's bad for the environment. As far as our design process, we do a lot of brainstorming. It's a little bit less sketching and physical prototyping that you see at other companies. We'll 3D print, but a lot of it's CAD based.
Yeah, one thing that I like that you said is like something as small as like we're not using paint over plastic because we're thinking of the environment. It's kind of goes along with that argument is like, oh, is not using a straw really going to change the climate of the earth? And I think to what you were saying is it's not about just the small thing that you're doing. It's really the mindset that you're approaching, right? If you're taking every intentional step to think about our resources, the future, our future generations that are to come after us, and designing towards that end for their benefit, then those little steps add up to a better future, right? So, I mean, you don't sell yourself short. Little things like that definitely affect the great good. So that's really awesome. So, Kendrick, so you're a poli-sci major, right? Yeah. So, seeing it from the outside in, first of all, did you even know what industrial design was?
So 3 days ago?
3 days. We have a new convert, guys. And
I
so
think you guys are called architects. Is that the nickname for architectural?
it's a very again political thing between architects and industrial designers. But what I will say to you, you know, kind of what Casey was talking about is that a lot of positions, and we've been hearing this over and over again, do not know that they need an industrial design, right? But how is, you know, what you've seen in Greentown Labs, how is design good for the businesses that are there and sort of general culture?
I think design is good because it helps the businesses tell the story of what they're trying to do better. No matter what you do, you're gonna have to like sell it and convince people. And having like artistic ability and illustration really helps, stuff like that. So having someone like an industrial designer on the team is really good because business can talk to an investor all day long, but unless they have like a prototype, an illustration of how this is gonna work, the mechanics of it, stuff like that, the methods, like it doesn't mean anything,
Yeah.
frankly, you know, they have to be able to see it literally. So I think industrial designers like like I said, I'm 72 hours into understanding what this is. It's really, really important
Yeah.
for businesses and startups.
Yeah, I think my bachelor's was engineering. So actually the way that I was introduced to industrial design is I had a friend invite me here to college, right? And so when I saw the sketches, I was like, what is this, right? Whatever this is, right, I need to sort of dive in head deep. So you're not the only one to sort of experience that. So that's really cool.
You guys can tell I was a BA and not a BS.
Yeah, Meredith, how about you and your experience? I know in TXRX, you've seen a lot of startups come and go and grow into bigger businesses. How has design made the difference in first of all, in your personal career, and then in the businesses that you've actually been able to see kind of grow?
There's something that I can probably add on to, I can add on to what everyone's already said already. There is definitely some things, let's just say becoming an industrial designer and being an industrial designer is actually learning what industrial design is. Like from your first job to whatever job you have now and whatever experience you pick up along the way, whatever you actually think industrial design is, it keeps changing. And sometimes it's figuring out what that is and how you fit in. It is true that a lot of companies might only have one industrial designer or they don't have a design team, and it's really you against an entire engineering department. And basically, if you can't, hold on, let's see, 1 second. If you can't dictate how something is made, not just because it's pretty, but this is the actual way it needs to be fabricated because of material costs, time and labor, what's most cost effective, everything you think you do will be thrown out the window for someone who can make it more affordable. So engineers absolutely do end up getting the last word sometimes. So with that being said, it's definitely forced me to keep learning new skills so I can have the same conversations with them. That's basically what this facility can also do for you. So everything you design with intention, and you know how it can actually be made, and you can validate it. And basically that's I would say that's the biggest benefit that you could offer as an industrial designer. It's your design thinking. I think design thinking should be applied to everything. Everything is a product or a service.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I also read about your philosophy over holistic design, right? About being able to see the process all the way through where, you know, if you're part of a big engineering department, you're probably just seeing one section of the product development lifecycle. But, you know, designers have this ability where we're able to see the entire process and really design to that end, right? So how have you, how do you implement holistic design in your day-to-day?
So holistic design is just designing, it's having awareness and designing with the conscience. So learning about the cost of raw materials, its environmental effect on the planet, the labor involved, the product lifestyle, how it's transported. And constantly asking yourself, is this actually necessary? I mean, sometimes you have to make stuff because that's what you do, but it doesn't mean you actually have value in you yourself take an interest in the product. You're the fabricator or you're prototyping it for someone else, but you just want to make sure you don't get stuck making something that you don't care about.
Yeah, no, that's very important, right? Yeah, I think it definitely makes a difference between creating a good design and something really great that affects in a positive way. There at TXRX, I'm sure you get a lot of people that are kind of starting their businesses, and here we have a lot of students that have a lot of great ideas. What would you say to a student that's maybe worried about portfolio or working on class projects, and maybe they want to start their own business, they want to be an entrepreneur? What would you tell them?
If you're interested in physical innovation, so physical innovation just means you're actually making something, so prototyping. If it's your interest, then I would recommend maybe taking some courses here. You can get a membership, come back and flesh out the type of portfolio that you want to shop around. That while learning the skills to do so, you're giving yourself an assignment, come up with a product goal. And then as you learn to make mistakes, document that experience. Because basically, if the better you are at making something, that's your skill set that you're actually offering an employer. It's the fact that all of that takes time and money to learn how to make something, and you need to be able to offer that expertise. That way you're able to design more products. And you want to be able to be as involved as possible in that entire process instead of handing it over to an engineer to figure out the rest of it for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I love your emphasis on honing your craft, right? Taking that extra course, going that extra mile. If you love model making, if you love sketching, if you love CADing, right? Spending that extra time on practicing those things make the difference, right? Because I'm telling you, the person next to you that probably isn't taking it as seriously is not doing those things, right? So if everything equal, they're going to choose you because you spent that extra hour, you took that extra class in woodworking, right? So it's very important to definitely do that. And I love the contrast here with Casey, where she's part of a bigger company. So what about the students that are looking to get more in the corporate role? What things would you say, hey, maybe this is good to put in your portfolio, especially if you want to get into like a technology place like HPE?
Okay, one thing that I mentioned earlier is that you're in competition with engineers to get your job in most cases because again, they don't really know what ID is. So one thing I say is make it appear that you're better than an engineer for that choice. And I think there's 3 good ways to do that in your portfolio. And I wrote these down because they're important. First is quantify the impact of your design. So if you have a design that's better than what's in the market, it's X% better, it's X% faster at what it does. Have a number. The second thing I would say is call out your design choices. And I think this is counterintuitive to what most people say for portfolios, but I want to know what your thought process is. Why did you choose this finish? Why did you add bumpers to protect the car that it's being mounted to? I have lots of examples for that if you want to talk more about that later. And then finally, I would say what's going to make you stand out the most against an engineering student is your rendering capabilities. Engineers are great at 3D modeling, but they have not been taught how to render in most cases. So make sure the future employer gets to see your renderings.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Kendrick, I know you in your past, you worked as a product manager for Uber and then sort of transitioned into different roles. Throughout that journey, how have you marketed yourself as a professional to kind of help you get those jobs?
I network like crazy. I can't stress the importance of networking more than enough. You never know who knows who or who's watching you, you don't even know it. A lot of my positions and jobs I've gotten is because someone referred me, and sometimes I knew who the person was and sometimes I didn't know. Networking is probably the most important thing that you can possibly do because it can lead to opportunities, and when you do get those opportunities, pay it forward, help someone coming up behind you, quite frankly. But I've gotten like all my opportunities through like just people looking out for me, and I didn't even know who they were, quite frankly. So be good to everyone who's come in contact with. I sound like a Hallmark movie right now. But, I can't stress the importance of developing your good personal communication skills, I go to happy hours all the time. I don't drink like that. I just drink water, but I go for the networking and just meet people, exchange business cards, add them on LinkedIn, and you curate connections. And sometimes I can connect with someone and they may not be a good fit for Greentown, but I'll know someone that they are. Oh, they're good for Casey. And I'll just connect them over. And sometimes me bringing them to her is like a referral and a stamp of approval. So just network, because it's going to benefit you down the road. I know some people who they hire someone and then they get laid off their job 20 years later. The person that used to work for them is finding them a job and helping them out. You never know who you can benefit from. So just network as much as you can. Build that LinkedIn profile. It's not a joke, really. Very serious.
Yeah, one thing that I don't want to put you on blast, Kendrick, but one thing that blew my mind is that Kendrick has never drank coffee in his life before.
Yeah. Don't drink coffee.
Well, it's just I think about that situation, and now I know that Kendrick will never leave my mind, right? So anytime like he's saying, when you're networking, yes, there is a professional aspect. Yes, there is a sort of quote unquote agenda, but at the end of the day, it's a human relationship, right? And being able to communicate and just connect with that person. Even if it amounts to nothing, and just remembering, hey, I know that I've never drank coffee before in this life. It's something. It's a real connection, much better than liking a picture or something like that. But definitely having that skill is always really good. So
another thing is when you're networking and you're meeting someone, they may be able to find a mentor for you or someone who can help you to the next stage in your life and where you're trying to go. So it's really important that you do that because you just never know who can like help you get to where you're trying to go.
Absolutely. So we're coming to a close here. I just wanted to open up for any questions in the audience or if there's anything in chat for our panelists here.
So retail labs, y'all open up to like students that have this sort of more like companies coming to that are more established.
So we're an incubator accelerator. We don't take equity and we don't invest in companies. We mostly just provide resources too. So we're building relationships with universities and stuff like that, and student groups, and letting people use our space for events, stuff like that. So you guys want to use our space for something like that, we do that. The way we interact with universities, our students, like we connect them with our startups for internships and just jobs, even on our websites and stuff like that. So we're fairly new to Houston. The building's been open about 6 months. It opened up on Earth Day, this year. And so we're still trying to build those relationships, but like, we're definitely reaching out to universities and trying to work with student groups. And I get emails from students all the time. And I just connect them with a company that may be looking for an internship. So find me on LinkedIn. Okay. So the resources we provide for startups are, we have a prototyping lab for our members, a wet lab, an electronics lab, outdoor lab, a roof lab for our startups to use, CEO roundtables, CTO roundtables, it's a whole virtual world. And we give our members free access to things such as Ansys, MathWorks, SolidWorks, all those online softwares, all free access for 2 years because they're a member of Greentown. And we have about 200 companies that are part of Greentown, and about 50 of them are here in Houston. And they can range from a solo startup to a company that's about to get acquired by like Chevron. So just a wide range. And the thing about our co-working space is we don't let companies in there like too similar to each other because we don't want to create the sense of like putting people up against each other in competition. We're just like service provider mostly. And we connect them to investors or corporate partners because if you have sales or a partner or a pilot program, you can get investment. So we do a lot of partnerships with like student groups who may be looking to place people or venture firms who may be looking to start a pilot program. So it's a whole plethora of things that we try to work with.
I also have a question for Casey. So you mentioned that you are a small ID team of basically 4 people, right? Half in another country, half here. Do you feel like there could be room for more, or do you think you guys cover all the grounds for your team?
We're usually stretched pretty thin, but one thing I forgot to emphasize earlier is HPE is definitely not the same as HP. HPE Enterprise, we do enterprise products, so servers. HP is more consumer electronics. So we have different hiring needs. I'm not sure what their design team looks like at all. They may have several more designers. For us, the majority of the design framework is actually done by our engineering teams. And then they come to us where we try to tweak and fix things. And then there's other projects where we take ownership. But I definitely think that we could benefit from having more designers. It's just the company has to weigh out, costs and what it brings.
Well, actually, I have a question for Meredith. You mentioned that you're curating galleries there at TXRX. So number one, why is that important to you? And then number two, what's next for you? What are you looking forward towards in your future?
Okay, well, it's exciting to have the gallery because TXRX has probably been around for about 11 years, but this is the first time that we can actually offer a showcase space for our community. So I am hoping that will generate a lot of creativity. It could be for members, it could be anyone who wants to use the space, or I would like to put things in there that will inspire people to be like, hey, I could do this too. So whether it's things that you make at our facility or it's outside traveling shows, it's very open right now. So that's a pretty great resource for the community. And what's the second part of your question?
What's next for you? What are you looking forward towards, whether professionally or honestly, just anything that you're excited about?
Well, I get to do another residency coming up, so that's kind of exciting. And the last one, I got to work with about 4 different individuals and I came up with a custom curriculum for them based on what they wanted to do, and I made sure they got all the skills and training courses. So that was pretty fun. I really enjoyed picking the theme. Really, I would say my biggest enjoyment here, or what I look forward to, is the fact that we keep acquiring new equipment, which means there's new things to learn. There's so many things we haven't set up yet, so many things I have not messed with yet. We have this pick and place machine that I really want to play with. So with this new facility, I believe we're 65,000 square feet now. We have a lot to do here, and it's really just getting in those areas and setting up that equipment so that people can use it too.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, and whether you're looking for, again, something more corporate, part of a bigger company, or just a self-starter, whatever you want to do, as a designer, you have that freedom. You can do that, right? So if anything, we hope that we've encouraged you guys and you guys have learned something. I just want to thank our panelists. Thank you so much for being here with us. I want to thank Sitsa, the people pulling the strings, closing the curtains. Thank you so much, Sitsa, and our sponsors too, everyone that helps kind of bring these things together. So we're finishing up here day 3, but day 4 is tomorrow, which is the coolest day. So make sure to come by and say hello and learn something new. So thank you guys. Awesome. Oh,
I have one last question. So we talked about kind of competing with engineering students and LinkedIn. And so when we kind of go look at the jobs area of LinkedIn, like sometimes I'll just type in industrial design and it comes up with very few jobs. Would you even say our ability as designers, could we even type in engineer and then kind of look at those jobs and see if it has the same qualifications we apply to that? Just like open up the field, or would you recommend typing in any other like keywords, not just industrial design?
I have definitely searched under engineering jobs before, and a lot of my roles, especially at Extra Life, have been more engineering type roles. So let's see, I would say that you would be competitive. It's nice to have a little experience and a little proof underneath your belt to show that you are capable of doing these things. And right now the job market is terrible. But yeah, generally I think that you put yourself out there.
You know, while I do, I swear I don't get paid by LinkedIn. You know, I would say when you're looking for jobs, don't try to narrow down too much on like an exact title or exact field. If you try it out, you'll get a bigger search just in general, whether you're using LinkedIn or not. But sometimes it's a crazy idea. But I've done it myself. Sometimes you can reach out to a company that be hiring and tell them why they need to hire you and tell them why you can benefit them. Whether it's through a cover letter, applying for a job title you may or may not, you know, be fit for. But you can always like, sometimes I've had friends create their own jobs and shape themselves and stuff like that, and create their positions within companies and stuff like that. So don't be afraid to kind of, you know, if you see a company you feel like you can benefit them, reach out to them and convince them. A lot of times you can figure out people's emails. Typically it's like first initial, last name, or first name dot last name at the company name.com or edu, IO, whatever the letters are. And so you can reach people. There are ways to like reach out to people and stuff like that. And don't be afraid to just message people.
yeah.
Like I said, I don't work for LinkedIn, but there's even LinkedIn Premium, where it gives you like more search things and more tools and shows you who's applied for this job, where they went to school, at, all those types of things like that. It's a 30-day free trial.
Yeah, some girls.
I use it for Greentown and like it helped me get the job.
Yeah.
But remember to cancel. Put it on your calendar. Cancel
Cancel the
charge.
the day right before.
Day right before it.
How did you find these panelists? LinkedIn.
Now, some other guerrilla tactics that I've used is like, because obviously, like he said, sometimes you can guess to emails, and I know this is so bad. Like I'll put one email on the actual like sent to, but then if you BCC or CC somebody, it doesn't show up. Like it shortens it, right? So that they see that you're not shotgunning, basically trying to get to their email. But I mean, I had some people reach out to me, and just the initiative, right, of that, like tells me this person isn't playing around. They want to get somewhere, right? So I don't know. There's good and bad in that.
And I'm not telling people to change your email addresses, but make sure you have an email address that is appropriate. Okay, I know it's hard to change if you've been having one for years, but that is important as well. Especially if you're going to be emailing from your personal and not like a work email.
Yeah.
It makes it easier for someone to respond and you don't fall into like someone's spam folder. But never be afraid to reach out to people just cold, because they'll respect that and they're like, oh, okay, cool, you never met the person. But if you can get like the second connection or someone who may know someone to make an introduction, that's always great. Warm intros, it's always the best approach. But there's nothing wrong with going cold. That's very admirable.
So basically, like if you kind of have a mentor and they recommend the company, you would want to email the company and then CC your mentor.
If your mentor can make the introduction,
Okay.
it's even better.
Okay.
But if you want to CC them as well, then that works as well. But like, always, if you don't have business cards, you need to get those. I know this isn't career services. But like, that's very important because that's how people stay in connection with each other and stuff like that. And someone, will take that note. I have a Rolodex of people that I'm always like recommending and doing stuff for, because like I said, someone did it for me, so I felt it's my obligation to do the same thing for people coming up behind me. And if you're a cougar, oh hell yeah, for sure. The Aggies do it all the time, so we should do it.
Exactly. Awesome, guys. So yeah, definitely change your Gmail from waffle maker to, something professional. So thank you guys. I want to respect y'all's time. So thanks, guys.